Good morning all. In the today's session, we'll discuss about the Dbms SQL commands as what we have stopped in the last session, the continuation of that. So before starting the today's session guys, we'll try to discuss the things which are all discussed in the previous session, right? In the last session guys, we discussed about alter command, right? What exactly alter? What is the purpose of alter guys? Alter command is used to change the structure of a table. That means suppose if I want to add any one column what I have missed out or for any updation purpose, if I want to add any column during the time, we'll make use of an alter command, right? So suppose if I want to add an attribute or if I want to drop an attribute from the table, then during the time we'll make use of an alter. Along with that, there's one more purpose we have learned in the last session of our Dbms SQL commands. What is that guys? With the help of alter command, even we can add the constraints like primary key, right? So what do you mean by primary key guys? Primary key means if I want to put some constraint on any of the attribute where that attribute should exhibit the property of uniqueness so that it should not take any values which is already existing in that table, right? That means it should hold only unique values under that column, right? So for that, so that easily we can distinguish two tuples, right, with the help of that attribute, right? So such if any such attribute, if it is exhibiting such property, so such attribute we call by name key attribute of the table. To achieve that uniqueness or key attribute in any table, we'll make use of this primary key constraint, or we call it by name in general key constraint. To apply that key constraint, that is a primary key to any table, we'll make use of alter command, right? So not always with the alter we'll go with that means adding a primary key constraint, that means adding a key constraint to a table. Even suppose if I am doing a creation of a table also, even we can able to achieve this key constraint. That means we can apply a primary key, we can make a key, we can make an attribute to be a primary key. That also possible, we'll take up today. So we'll try to recall with very less time. So we discussed about how to add an attribute to a table, right, with the help of alter command. What is the syntax? Alter table followed by the table name, then add is a keyword. Suppose if I want to add any attribute, right, add attribute. Example, in the last session we learned how to add, we have missed that MID, right, where we use this movie ID, MID as an attribute to distinguish between two tuples, that means to uniquely identify each tuple in the movie table, right? So that's why we added a MID kind of an attribute, right? So then after that, that means first we added with the help of this alter command, then later we made it as primary key with the help of a command called alter table name, then add, because earlier only we have added attribute by specifying a data type and size. Now we want to make this attribute to be a primary key. This should not take a repeated entries, right? Any redundant entry should not be there, right? To achieve it, we made it as primary key. So how? Alter table name, that is movie, then add primary key, then which attribute I want to make as primary key. I want to make this MID as a primary key. In general, in relational database management system, we'll make use of this underline symbol. That means underlining an attribute that indicates that that attribute is a key attribute in the table, right? So okay, fine. This is what syntax and example we have used. We made this successfully, that MID as a key attribute. Then afterwards, if any value, I can repeat all these values because these are all non-prime or non-key attributes of this table, right? So I can repeat the same thing possible. Look at this one, Kannada I can repeat a release year. Even we can able to repeat this movie name also, but I cannot repeat this MID, right? So that we are achieving by making this MID as a primary key, that is key attribute, right? Then after that, let's say friends, even we discussed about how to drop an attribute. Could we have not discussed about any example. Let me take with a very short time, I'll go with adding one attribute and how to drop it, because we discussed about adding, but we have not discussed about dropping of an attribute from a table, right? Let me take the dropping of attribute from the table. Let me go with this one friends, it's a movie table. For timing, I'll go with adding one attribute to this movie table, right? To do that, how to add friends? Let me go with this alter command, alter table, movie, right? Then what? I want to add an attribute for time being. Let me go with, I want to add an attribute in the name called something movie type, M type, something, varchar of some 20 that I want to mention, then put a semicolon, then press enter. That's it, guys. Look at this one, friends. Alter table movie, then add, what's the attribute name? Movie type, M type, then followed by the data type of the table, varchar of 20 something, right? So yes, it's showing me a query, okay, it's an indication that it has successfully added an attribute in a name called M type to my table movie. Let me look into this, the table, the content of the table. How can I see the content of a table, friends? Select star from movie, right? That's it. Okay, fine. What's the problem? So that's a spelling mistake with respect to select. Yes, done. Look at this one, friends. I have added an attribute successfully to a M type. Even with the help of update command, I can update a value possible. Let me take one small example. Update movie set M type is equal to something called horror, then where MID is equal to 1. Fine, things updated. Let me see the content. Yes, the first movie becomes an horror, right? I have mentioned, I have recently updated. Now my question is, actually I want to explore how can I drop an attribute, right? That's why I have added an attribute. Even you can drop any attribute if you want, of your interest possible. Let me go with dropping. I don't want this M type. Now I want to drop from my table, right? So again it is become what? Suppose if in a house, if you don't want any wall, or if any house during that time you are going with the dropping of a wall, right? Dropping of a wall, right? So here also basically that we called by name an alteration of a house, right? Here also we are doing the alteration of this house, that means a movie table. So to do it, I'll go with again an alter command. Alter, which one? Alter table movie, right? Then what's the next step? I want to drop an attribute. I don't want that M type, movie type, right? So to do it, drop, make use of a keyword called drop. If I want to add an attribute, make use of add. If you want to drop it, make use of a drop, right? With which command? Alter command, right? So drop, which attribute you want to drop? M type, mention that, that's it. Then need to mention any data type? No guys, why? Data type is required only when we want to add an attribute to a table. During dropping, it doesn't require, right? So fine. Put a semicolon, then press enter. That's it, guys. Query okay? It's an indication that it's given acknowledgement for us. We have successfully dropped a table, dropped the attribute of the table, that is M type. Let me look into that, whether it happened or not. Yes, look at this one, guys. Drop. Now we learned how to add and how to drop an attribute from the table, right? So what is the syntax? Alter table, table name, then the keyword to be used is drop, then the attribute name, right? So one such example, alter table movie drop release year. Anything you want, you can drop it of. It might belongs to any data type, right? So especially when we want to drop attribute like a key attribute, during the time a special care to be taken, because that is taking care of that whole table values, right? So that is the only key. With that only we are identifying all tuples uniquely in the table, right? So during the time we need to drop a constraint first, then later we will go for dropping an attribute, guys. So let us will proceed further, and prior to that, how to add a primary key, that we have discussed. Alter table add primary key, that's it. Next, let me go with discussing today's session. For that, I'll tell you a small story with the help of the content what I have written in the board. Look at this one, guys. I am having two tables, one in the name called movie, where it contains a movie name, language, release year, and MID, where MID is a key attribute, right? With the help of this attribute, we are uniquely identifying each tuple, each row in the table movie. Let's say we have seen that most of the movies are directed by some directors, right? So let us consider, guys, with respect to the current scenario, every movie is directed by only one director, and a director can direct many movies. Can remember friends, remember please. A movie can be directed by only one director, assume for time being, and a director can direct many movies, right? So now I want to have, there are so many directors, right? Let's I want to record all director details. To hold all director details, guys, I am storing all director details in a separate table named director. Look at this one, guys. Director table, where it contains 3 attributes. One is director ID, director name, age, right? Age of a director. So where here in the director table, I made this director ID, DID, as a key attribute. It's an indication that possibility that the director name could be the same and even the age could be same, right? During the time I need to identify each director uniquely, So how can I identify, friends? To distinguish 2 directors or to identify each director uniquely in the director table, what I made is, as usual, what is that? Key attribute. I have used that key attribute concept and I made this DID as a primary key, right? So let me go with creating this director table, because in my table I'll show you how to see the content, what all the tables are there in my database. To know it, we are making use of show tables kind of a command, right? So let me look into that. We are having only one table, what's the name of a table? Movie. I don't have a director table. Let me go with adding this director table where DID is a key attribute. Through that, will try to learn without using an alter command how to make an attribute as a key attribute. That to what? During creation of a table. Because at this point of time, before creation itself, we are having the whole structure of a table and we know which attribute to make it as a key attribute and which all to be non-key or a non-prime attribute. That all we know, right? All such information known to us, right? So let me go with making this DID to be a key attribute, especially during the creation of a table, director table. Let me see, friends. So can you remember, friends, what's the command to be used for creating a director table? Create, yes, super. Then what? Table, what's the name of a table? Director, fine. What are the attributes I want to keep in the director table, guys? DID, yes, fine. Director ID, and what is the data type of this? It is taking a value 10, 11, 12. It's an indication that it should be what? Integer. And along with that, I want to make this attribute to be what? I want to make this attribute to be a primary key, right? So for that, what I'll do is, I'll make use of a keyword primary key in front of this DID as what I have written. Look at this one, friends. Create table director DID, the data type followed by the constraint in which you want to apply on that attribute, right? Okay, fine, guys, right? Primary key I made. Then what's the next step? I want to add one more attribute. So next attribute is what? Dname. Let me go with director name. Then it is taking a string, right? Let me make it as a varchar type. And I want to mention the size as some 20. You can mention as whatever you want possible. Then put a semicolon. Then what's the next one? I want to add that age, the last attribute. It is of what type? Integer. Yes, done. I'll put a semicolon. Done. Yes, guys. So one beautiful thing what we learned here is, suppose if I know which attribute to make it as key attribute before the table creation, during the time, it is possible even without using an alter command, right? With the help of create table command, by making use of a keyword called primary key, right? DID int, then primary key. That's it. Let me go with describing a table. I want to see the that is what the structure. There is a metadata of my table, whether it happened or not. Look at this one, guys. DID int PRI. It's an indication that we have met successfully the DID as a key attribute, right? So let me go with adding few values to this table, 10, 11, 12 with some name Rajesh, Mahesh and Suhas, something like this. Whichever you want you can add. It's left to you. How to insert a row into a table, friends? What's the command? Insert. Yes. Insert into director. Fine. What all the attributes I am having? Actually, DID, then dname, yes, fine. What's the next? Age. To all these columns, I want to add a value now. Make use of values, then followed by the value. Let me go with 10. I'll have a series of 10, 11, 12, something like that for a director ID. Then I make use of the director name. The first one I'll make use of something what as per this example we took this Rajesh, can take anything, no issues, with age as 20, yes, done, fine. Let me go with C, select start from director. Yes, look at this one guys, I have added successfully. Let me go with adding 2 more tuples into a table. Just I'll make use of an arrow key and I'll try to recall the command and I'll try to change, modify its value, that's it. So I'll make the second value as Mahesh something. So with the age of something what 41, whichever you want you can add, no issues. Then I want to add one more, the last value 12 with some Suhas. Then with value of 35 as age, yes, done. Let me go with seeing the content of a table with select start from director, yes, done. Then look at this one, show tables. I want to see whether 2 tables as there in my list, show tables. Look at this one guys, we are having 2 tables, one is movie and second one is director. Let me go with displaying the content of both the tables, select start from movie, yes, then select start from director, yes. I got the content of both the tables here now. What's the purpose of creating a director table? To hold all director details. The purpose of creating a movie table is to hold all movie details. Then identifying each movie with the help of MID and identifying each director based on DID in the director table, right? This is what. But as the beginning of this session, I said one story. I have created this director is to create a relationship between this movie and the director, right? What that scenario I said guys? We are having a list of movies and we are having a list of directors. And I said for time being as a constraint, every movie is directed by only one director. Never forget guys, every movie is directed by only one director and a director can direct many movies. This is what a thing I said. That means one movie having one director and a director can direct many movies. Then what I can do, how can I build a relation here? That means from movie to director, we are having what friends? A movie can have one director, but director can direct many movies. For example, M1, M2, M3, these are all the movie instances, movies. And a director D1, D2, if I am having D1, D2, 2 directors, D1 directs M1 and M2, D2 directs M3 and M4 and M5, could be there, right? Possible, because a director can direct many movies. A movie is always directed by only one director. This scenario I want to show friends. That means from this end many to one, or from this end we can say it is one to many. One connected with many movies. One connected with many movies, right? So how can I show this one? How can I build this relation friends? I want to say, I want to know about this movie 1, something ABC directed by whom, or DID 10 directed how many movies, what are the movies he directed, that I want to know. To build this kind of relationship can only be possible with the help of these key attributes as what we created. So how can I build this one-to-many relationship? I said M movie ID, that means what all the directors are there, the same directors are directed these movies guys. For that, what all the things I can do is, one thing we can do, I can make this MID as a foreign key here. That means I can keep this MID attribute of this here, possible. If I keep this MID as an attribute here, because with the help of IDs, MIDs only, we are identifying each movie uniquely, So if I am having a 1, it is an indication that, oh, movie 1 is which one? We'll compare this one, 1, yes, right, matched. What is the movie? ABC, I got the things, right, fine. Suppose if I keep this MID as a foreign key here, then what happens? Let me check whether are we successful in handling this scenario or not. Let me check it friends. So if I keep this MID as a foreign key here, that means if I keep this attribute here, foreign key, later we'll come to it at the end of this today's session. Suppose if I keep this MID here as a cross relation approach, that means to build a relation between these two tables. Usually for building a relation, will make use of a person who knows both the families, right? Here also same thing. I'll make use of an attribute who connects two tables. For that, we should have an attribute to be present in both the tables, right? Definitely that creates a relationship between the two tables, right? The same thing I'm doing here. What I did is I took this MID just for checking purpose, right? So MID as in the director table as a foreign key. Foreign key means it takes only these values. That's it. Later we'll take up the further things in depth of this foreign key. So once after this, I can hold all values. I can repeat as many times as I want. 1, 1, 1. That's it. Let me say, for example, 1 if I write like this. What it says, the director D1. Let me say this is director 10. This is director 11. 10 directed 2 movies. Assume 1 and 2. Is it possible for us to do? So 10 directed 1. Yes, we have achieved. And along with this 10, directing a one more movie. What is that, friends? 2. That means, let me call by name the movie 2. How can I say? If I write 2 here, then this is corresponds to which one? The director 11, that is Mahesh. But actually, our intention is the 10, that is Rajesh only directed even the second movie also. How can I show this? Oh, simple thing. Just repeat one more time 10 and or update this 11 to 10. Is it allow us to update? No, guys. Why? We made this DID as a primary key and here MID as a key attribute. Since these two are key attributes, I cannot repeat this further once again, right? So for that, if I made this MID as a linking attribute, that means as a foreign key attribute in this table, then what happens, guys? I cannot achieve this scenario of one director can direct many movies, right? We failed there, right? So instead of that, what I can do, friends? Actually, from this, what we can show is, I can repeat this movie 1, 1 as many times as I want, since it is not a key attribute. Only the key attribute is DID. It's an indication that a movie is directed by 2 directors. So to that opposite scenario, this becomes an answer. But I don't want this one. What I want, friends? I want to achieve a movie is directed by only one director and a director directs many movies. This I want to achieve. So a movie is always directed by only one director. One movie, one director. One movie, one director, right? So that I want to achieve. So if a movie must have only one director, means here I cannot repeat a movie ID. So for that, it is better to keep a director ID as what we have used in the director table to uniquely identify each tuple in the director table, right? So just pick this attribute and make it as a foreign key attribute here, Then what happens? I can have all values which are present in a director table here. The same thing here, possible, right? I can have, let's say, for example, 10. What exactly I want to show, friends, here? A director D1, that means 10. Directed 2 movies, 1 and 2, right? So these are all 1 and 2. Since director ID is a foreign key, only in this table we made it as primary key. But here we have never made this as primary key, this DID. Only MID is primary key. MID cannot repeat, but DID I can repeat as many times as possible, right? So that I can repeat this 10 possible because 1 also directed by 10 and 2 also directed by what? The same 10. I can have it possible. Then let's say 3 directed by 2. Let me call it by name. This is 11. I can have this 11 here. It's an indication that we have successfully achieved the scenario as what I said. Sure, guys, look at this one. 2 movies directed by only one director. 2 movies directed by only same director. That means multiple movies directed by same director. A director can direct many movies. Look at this one, 10 connected with 1, 10 connected with 2. It's an indication that a director can direct many movies. And a movie can have only one director. Since it is a key attribute, I cannot have once again 1 here because this primary key constraint doesn't permit us to enter one more time 1 here. It's an indication that since I cannot repeat this 1, it shows that a movie can always have only one director as part of this scenario, right? But in real life, it could be a different, right? So, but for time being, we have achieved this one. this is many to one relationship from movie to director, and many movies can have one director, right? And every movie having only one director, and the director can direct many movies that we have achieved here. Let me go with adding. Let us will take you to this table, movie table and director. So as per this example, we said we need to add an attribute to a movie table. What's the name of that attribute? I want to make it as DID, director ID, right? And this attribute, I want to make this as foreign key. Foreign key means they should take the values only which are present in the primary key table. That means in the director table. It should not take some value like 20. Why? If he is a director, the director details must be present where, friends? In the director table. Do we have a 20 kind of a director details in the director table? We don't have a 20. It's an indication that I want to take the values under the column director ID only which are present in the director table. That means in the DID column, right? It's an indication that it should take the values which are present only in the DID column. I can repeat 10, 10, 10 as many times as I want possible, but it should not take the values which are not present in this one. 30 if I write, do we have a 30? No. So that it says what? Wrong. When I say 11, okay, because 11 is present, right? It's an indication that the foreign key, this we call by name, what, friends? Foreign key. What do you mean by foreign key? Foreign key is an attribute. Basically, it's an attribute, you know. Yes, it's an attribute used to connect. What is the purpose of adding this DID here? It is to join, is to connect two relations. Relations means tables. Two tables we are joining with the help of this foreign key. It acts like a relation building attribute, right? So through that we can show that one to many, many to one, one to one, such kind of relationships, right? So between the two tables. Here, and one more, with the help of this foreign key, I can repeat the value as many times as I want possible, its value, but it takes only the values which are present in the referred table, right? Here, which is the referred table? Director is the referred table. This is the referencing table. The referencing table attribute value, that is DID value, it is the value only which are present in the reference table, that is referred table, director table, right? So only these values only I can enter here, I can repeat it here possible, the same value again and again, right? But I cannot enter a value which is not present in the director table. It is as similar to that. So let's consider it as an admission section, it's an examination section table. Here also I am having a USN, here also I am having a USN. In the admission section, what all the USNs are there, the only those USNs I can have it in an examination section. Otherwise what happens? Student has not admitted but taking an exam. Do you think that, are you agree with this thing, it's the right thing? No, it should not happen, right? So these kind of, that means taking a values which are present in the master table, that is in the primary key table column, only those values in the foreign key table, it's an indication, most of the time it is required also, right? So that's why we are having this concept, foreign key approach, right? That means building a relation between the two tables with the help of these attribute, bridging attributes, right? That is foreign key attributes, and it takes the values only which are present in the referring table, right? Reference table in the referencing relation. And one more thing is, when I want to make any attribute to be a foreign key, one constraint, one rule is there, guys. What is that, you know? It must be a primary key in some other table. It must be a primary key. Before making this DID as a foreign key in the movie table, it must be a primary key in some table. That means to make this foreign key here, it must be what? A primary key in some table. That is in the director. Already we made primary key, no? Yes. The rule we have passed. Only thing is we want to add this DID as a foreign key here, and I want to make it as foreign key. And let's check where it takes, and we have to check one more thing. What is that, guys? It should take only the values which are present in a director ID. It should not take any values out of this, right? Out of these values as what we have entered in the director column. Let me verify this one. So already we have created a director table and we have created a movie table. But in the movie table, whether we are having a DID here? No, let me go with adding the DID column. How? To add a column to a movie table, right? To a movie table, I want to add a DID kind of a column, and I want to make this as a foreign key, and it should point to where, friends? To a director table of DID, right? So let me go by adding which command to make use, guys? We have to make use of alter command, because again it is an alteration, right? So alter table. Which table I want to alter? I want to alter a movie table. Alter table movie. Then what? I want to add an attribute. Which attribute I want to add, friends? I want to add DID attribute. DID, fine. And what is the data type of this? Int. Yes, fine. We have added an attribute, guys. Let me go with checking. Describe movie. Select star from movie. That also gives a value. Let me check select star from movie. What it gives. Look at this one, guys. Earlier we don't have a DID, now we added. But no, I said it is a foreign key, but it's not showing anything at this column because we have not made it as a foreign key currently. Currently what we did, only we added an attribute, that's it. Now we need to add a constraint of what? Foreign key. Once if I made it as a foreign key, what happens? It takes only the values which are present in a director table. That means where it is referring, right? So that's it. Let me go with saying a value, DID, it is taking a null. But null we don't have, by default that foreign key it takes what? Null values. Let me go with adding or making this DID column to be a foreign key. To make it as foreign key, DID as a foreign key in movie table, it must be what? Primary key in the director table, that is in some table. Whether it is primary key, let me see, where? In the director, yes, in the director table, it is what? Primary key. So definitely I can make this as a foreign key in some other table, right? So possible. How? Again, primary key is a constraint. Foreign key is also a what? Again, we are talking about some rule, take only the values present in this list. It's a restriction. In case of primary key, we said don't take a repeated, the same entry once again, it is a rule. Similar kind of a rule, a slightly different rule, right? We are applying here. So then all such rules we call by name constraints in Dbms. To apply this constraint, basically this constraint we call by name referential integrity constraint, or in general terminology we call by name foreign key constraint, right? So let me go with making this attribute DID as a foreign key in the director table. Already we are having a DID kind of a column, only the thing is to put one restriction that, hey Mr. DID, only take the values which are present where? In the director table, right? So what this DID is holding, only you take only such values, right? So let me take director. This DID to be filled with the values of this DID, movie table DID. To do that, alter table, where I am doing an alteration, guys, in the movie table, right? To that I want to have added an attribute, but I want to attach a constraint to DID. To do it, alter table movie, yes. What I want to attach? I want to attach a foreign key constraint. That means I am adding a constraint, so that make use of a keyword called add. Then what? I want to add which one? Not primary key. What? Foreign key constraint. Foreign key constraint. So for that, make use of the keyword called foreign key of which attribute I want to make it as foreign key, guys? DID. Okay. Only mentioning a foreign key of DID itself is enough? No, guys. Why? Actually, we should say, hey Mr. DID, you should take the values which are present in the director table, right? This one. This DID should take a values which are present in this movie table, alright? Movie table DID should take only the values present in a director table DID column, right? So for that we should say foreign key of DID. Foreign key of DID, this DID represents the current table. That means which table? Movie table DID. That means this one. And it should point to where, friends? It should refer references. We should mention references. Which table? Director table. Look at this one, guys. This DID should refer to where? To the director table, right? So let me go with adding director of, what's the attribute name, friends? DID. Look at this one, director table DID. That's it. Then I'll put a semicolon, press enter, guys. Yes. Look at this one, query okay, 3 rows affected, things are done. Let me see, friends. Select star from movie. Yes. Then select star from director. Oh, nothing happened, I have not got any value there. For that I need to update it. It only added a constraint to that. How can I see the constraint? It's again a data about data, that is metadata. I'll go with seeing the catalog now. To do the describe movie, guys. Earlier we don't have any value for the row DID. Look at this one. We are having what? MUL. It's an indication that we have successfully made this DID as a foreign key in the movie table. And that means DID of this movie table column takes only the values which are present where? In the director column. Let me check, friends. So let me go with adding select star from director. These are all the directors and these are all the movies. To update a value, this null by something else, this null I want to replace. Let me say the movie ID 1 and 2 was directed by 10. Let me update this one. How? Update which one? Movie set DID should be equal to 10. If I write only this one, then all become 10. That I don't want. Which one? I want to make this where MID should be equal to 1. Look at this one. Changed. Select star from movie. Yes. ABC directed by whom? By 10. Let me go with checking. Updating a one more value. Update movie set DID is equal to, let me say I want to make it as some 80 where movie ID is equal to 2. Can I able to enter this one? No. Why? We don't have 80 kind of a director ID in the director table. Look at this one, guys. In the director table only we are having the values like 10, 11, 12. We don't have 80. So for that it should show me an error for this, right? So let me check. Then only we'll say we have successfully achieved this foreign key constraint, right? That means referential integrity constraint. Look at this one. This showing an error. What's the error? Very wonderful. Keenly observe the error, guys. From this we learn a lot. We'll learn a lot. Sure. Update movie set DID equal to 80 where MID equal to 2. Cannot add or update a child row. A foreign key constraint fails. It's showing foreign key constraint fails because look at this one. We don't have a DID, director of DID. It is trying to find that 80 kind of a value in a director table, but it never finds that 80 there, right? So for that it's showing a error. So let me go with replacing it by some 10. Can I repeat a value? I said sure, we can repeat. If it is a foreign key, I can repeat. If it is a primary key, I cannot repeat. Foreign key takes only the values which are present in a primary key table, right? That means where exactly it is, we made this as a primary key, right? Only such values it takes. Where it is pointing, right? Where it is referring, only it takes such values, right? So let me go with making the MID 2, that movie 2 also be directed by whom? By the director, by the director 10. I am setting the same director. Yes, we are done. That means a director can direct many movies. This also we said, yes, 10 directed many movies. And a movie is directed by only one director. Since one I cannot repeat, so for that a movie can be directed by only one director, but a movie can be directed by only one director, but a director can direct many movies. 10 twice indicates a director directing multiple movies. Fine. Let me updating the last value. I'll update a DID as 11 where MID is something what? 3. Yes, we have successfully updated select star from movie and select star from director. Fine. Yes. Only 10, 10, 11. All these values which are present only in this list, yes, we have successfully created a relationship between this movie and the director. What kind of a relation? One movie directed by one director and the director directs many movies. From director to movie, we made many to many, many to one. Let's say for example, this is movie and this one is director. This is instances, movie 1, movie 2, movie 3 like this. And these are all the directors, that is 10, 11, 12. Let me call it by name D1, D2, D3. What happened here? D1 connected with M1 and M2, that is 10 connected with 1 and 2, and D2 connected with D3. That means one director directing many movies. That means one movie having only one director. It's an indication that one connected with one, but here one connected with many. One instance connected here, how many instances? N instances. So for that we have successfully shown this many to one cardinality, right, between the two tables. Right. Thank you guys. Thanks for listening. Right. Try to go through the things and try to explore these things, right, practically with your laptop. That means with your MySQL. Right. Thank you. Thanks for your patience listening.